This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. Thank you so much for choosing to listen to this episode. And I expect you've clicked on play because you might be familiar with my next guest, whom I'm so fond of, I can't even tell you, because we got to know each other very well during COVID, because he was the backbone to a show that I very proudly did every week with Ian Knowlson, which was the Recruitment Shining Stars show. So to our wonderful audience, this is Stephen O'Donnell, and Stephen is the Chief Growth Officer of TAtech. He is the founder of the incredible NORAs, which we're going to find out more about. And he's also the reason that we celebrate International Recruiters Day. So welcome to you today, Stephen. How are you?
Thank you very much, Leisha. It's a great introduction. I'm glorious and I'm really thankful to be here. It's great to be here.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And like I say, you are somebody that so many people will already be familiar with. But for those who aren't yet familiar, I'm sure that you're going to create a whole new audience across our global network. So for those who are not yet familiar with what the NORAs actually are, can you just give us a little bit of history and contextualize what it actually is and why you did it?
Yes, so the National Online Recruitment Awards, you might see a little logo behind me here. The National Online Recruitment Awards was actually born out of a website that I set up in 2000. Before that website, I'd built a website for my recruitment agency, Source Selection. And I was so chuffed with it. I'd built this website and I thought, how do I tell everyone about this website for my agency? There must be a database, there must be a directory of all the agencies in the country. And the more I looked, the more I realized there wasn't one. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to do that. So I started a website called alljobsuk.com, which was essentially a directory of every single agency in the UK and every employer with more than 100 staff and every job board, every publication, basically anywhere that was advertising vacancies, so that candidates could find either a recruitment agency in their sector, in their location, or an individual recruitment consultant with a database of recruitment consultants as well. That didn't go down well with the agency owners. At that time, there was no LinkedIn, so having a list of their staff online, they didn't take kindly to that. But so job boards, agencies, publications, recruiters, I wanted to publicize the website. All Jobs UK was the website, and I thought it'd be nice to win an award, but the next best thing to winning an award is giving out an award. So if I give an award, for example, to Monster, they have a big marketing team, and I'm sure they would shout about it to the world. So I set up the National Online Recruitment Awards, and because I didn't know how awards ceremonies and events were supposed to be run, I basically made it up from scratch. So I didn't know about the whole black tie and ball gown type of awards event. So I decided that we'll ask candidates to nominate agencies and job boards and publications, the ones that they like best from their perspective. We won't ask companies to pay to enter. We won't ask companies to give us any evidence on what they do and how they do it. We'll purely judge recruitment websites on what candidates see and what they experience. So when you find a job board, you register, you search for vacancies, you make an application, all of those things. So if we can't see it, then we don't judge it. And we ask candidates for their feedback. So we ask candidates to tell us what they like and what they don't like about recruitment websites. And when we whittle that down to who the finalists are going to be and who the winners are going to be, then these will be great sites that will be examples to everyone else of what good looks like. So at that time in the early 2000s, people were very much just guessing at what a good recruitment website could look like and could do and what candidates would want. So we were essentially establishing how we're going to go about things. And whenever sites were doing well, you'd want to throw a spotlight on them and say, this works, those other things don't work. So focus on the good, not so much on the bad. And year on year, we would have winners that would evolve and get better as time went by. And that's happened. And we're now 22 years later. This will be the 22nd one this year. It's become a bit of a fixture in the calendar. The original website, All Jobs, I sold in 2007, but the NORAs continues on. So it's a legacy from way back then.
It is, and I love that how it started. Really, I think I was possibly very grateful to you because when you started your All Jobs website, I was just starting in Rec to Rec, so I was probably the one that was tapping up all those recruiters because, like you say, way before LinkedIn was even invented, I think. But
we
no,
had about 12,000 individual recruiters shown on the website, and I didn't ask anyone's permission to list them. I basically went to the websites of Hayes or Robert Walters or whatever and got the database of who their recruiters were, because I thought that candidates want to know, right, if I'm an accountant in Manchester or an architect in London, who's the best recruitment consultant in this sector? It's not good enough to just go and find adverts. I want to find out an expert who knows all the best employers and who will get me the best move to my next career. So not just applying for a job, but finding a great recruiter. And I thought, if we can do that, then we can showcase the best recruiters. They can say, I'm a member of the REC, I work with these types of clients, I specialize in this industry sector, and so on and so on. I've been a recruiter for 5 million years or 5 minutes. But it was a way of the candidates getting to know the individual recruitment consultants. And as I say, at the time, certainly in 2000, was the time when agencies didn't even like recruiters to put their name on adverts because they were wary that their competitors would headhunt their staff away from them. In truth, their competitors already knew who their staff were. That's not a secret. What you were doing was keeping it a secret from candidates, and candidates are the people who want to know. And the best advert for your recruitment agency is the expertise of the recruiters you have under your brand.
And haven't you just summarised now where we're at, which is you almost have the precursor to what LinkedIn and personal branding actually is now, because you're absolutely right. There's this shrouding in secrecy, and we're not telling you, we're not revealing who our best recruiters are. You're absolutely right.
I wish I'd invented LinkedIn though.
I was going to say, you could have had a very different life, but no, I think it's important to sort of see where you've come from and where it's heading to. But I think it's very interesting. But I love anything that celebrates great recruitment practice. And what I like is that you're putting spotlights on, and you do continue to put spotlights on best practice, which for me is one of the main reasons I wanted to invite you on stage, because and our audience is about looking at. If we look at the recruitment market, there's so much noise out there, but we want these episodes to be where somebody can learn something. And whether you've been in recruitment 20 odd years like me, or whether you're a newbie starting out with 12 months, 6 months, whatever experience, what are people that are excelling in recruitment doing right now to make themselves the best in their market? And it's all about practice for me. And we try and keep it as I guess generic as possible, because I guess there are nuances in each market. But so from if we look at the last couple of years, you've had the NORAs, obviously a lot of this is going to be face to face this year, presumably it's going to be an in-person event.
It was in person in November last year. The one before that was virtual, and we moved to a new fancier venue. So when you get 300, 400 professional talkers in one room, they will not shut up. So it's always a really noisy affair. And we have a band on stage. People come up and sing with the band, and there's a generous helping of alcohol involved. But what we don't do at the NORAs is have the stuffy, and each to their own, but the black tie and ball gown events where you're sitting at a table of 10 and those are the only people you speak to all night. What we want is for people to be networking and having fun and going away with a lot more contacts than they arrived with. So the NORAs is all about celebration and having a fun time.
In collaboration, we are going to come back to events a little bit later in the conversation, if that's okay. So we'll definitely park that. So if you're interested in knowing more about events, then stay tuned. So just in terms of, if you look at some of the winners that you've had, and obviously we're talking very specifically here about the branding online, their website, what makes them stand out, the whole point of the online awards. What 3 things would you recommend recruiters and recruitment leaders are doing right now to stand out in what will be a congested market?
It's you could even say it's a frantic market just now, because recruitment consultants have much more, it's not too difficult to pick up vacancies these days, put it that way. Employers are trying to fill jobs hand over fist, and there isn't a ready supply of as many candidates as you might expect. What we are seeing is that when you advertise on job boards, application rates are way down on what they used to be. I think the pandemic to an extent disrupted the pattern of advertising on job boards and getting applications through. So candidates are not looking to job boards in the same way as they used to. Candidate expectations have changed. They want to see much more about a job and a vacancy and an employer and the hiring manager and the team they're going to be working with than you would typically see in a regular text-based job advert. So when you go onto any of the big regular job boards, the format of a job advert hasn't really changed that much. It's pretty much a big block of text. And if it's from an agency, it doesn't say who the employer is. If it's from an agency or employer, it doesn't usually say what the salary is. It might be a bit vague on the salary, sorry, the location. And it's often a copy and pasted internal job spec rather than an advert. And an advert should be a compelling piece of information that teases you, that tempts you, that persuades you to respond to it somehow. But if you just list, the duties involved in this role, then you're not tempting me. I can't see what's in it for me. And candidates are, and they know that they are in a position of strength now where they can push back. And it's not so much that they'll tell you, well, we don't like job adverts like that, but they tell you with their feet, and they don't apply in the volumes that they were before. So much more outreach has to be done to find candidates. You need to go to them. Now, from my perspective, I was always the kind of recruiter who, when I had a vacancy to fill, I would go and find the candidates wherever they were. And sometimes that might mean, the pub just outside the factory. I would go in there and buy drinks and network with them. But I would always find myself going to find candidates as opposed to posting a vacancy and hoping that people would apply. A lot of recruiters were the latter, and they found that you can't just post an advert, post and pray. You can't do that because people are not applying in the same numbers. You need to stimulate response some other way, and that means getting your hands dirty. It means having a much more wide approach to a campaign to find candidates for each vacancy. So each vacancy you'll have a campaign going on, and if you're working in a particular niche, then you need to build up your reputation in your niche for being the recruiter of choice for, as I say, accountants in Manchester or architects in London or wherever, so that the people in your sector know you, they know your name, and when they want to find a good career move, they know it's your number they should be calling or emailing.
Can I just pick up on that? Because I think you asked me off camera about our audience demographic, and a lot of the feedback I get personally to thank for the channel and all the guests that we have on is from newbie recruiters. So without being disingenuous, how do you build that kind of reputation when you haven't got the tenure? How easy to do authentically?
Yeah, well, so times are very different to when I started in 87. And in 87, I would often, in speaking with clients, I'd have to tell them what a recruitment consultancy was. I would have to explain that, we introduce people, and if you hire them, then you pay us a fee. And it was the same with candidates. You would have to tell them, well, you come, you register with us, and we'll submit you to clients, and, hopefully it all works out. Nowadays, there are many, many more tools that you can use to get your name and reputation out there, but it can be overwhelming, the amount of tools that you can use. The primary place to be honest, for all recruiters is, and it can differ for industry sectors. I know that there aren't many truckers on LinkedIn, there aren't many nurses on LinkedIn, but as a recruiter, the biggest database of recruitment consultants is LinkedIn. Every single recruiter in the world is on LinkedIn. If you are not on LinkedIn, then you're not a recruiter. That's just, so if anyone wants to find other recruiters, that's where to go. And in most industries, that would be the first place to go on. So if you, as an individual recruiter, see that as your home base, where you're showing what you do, what you're specializing in, who you do it with, and so on, and you can interact through that channel, that path. But as a recruiter, to be known in your industry, then you need to be busy. You need to be building up an awareness amongst the people you want to make an impression on. So if I was on LinkedIn and I wanted to find clients, then I would not just try and connect with them, but find out what activity they have, if they're posting on things, if they're writing articles, if they're commenting on other things. If I comment on their articles, their posts, their comments, then I'm coming to their attention. So whenever I do then make a direct approach or try and connect with them, I'm not a stranger anymore. So if I become known in that sector, and you have to build up your expertise, you have to build up an awareness of what you do and where you are, and people need a reason to take the time to look at your profile and think, yeah, it's worthwhile connecting with Stephen O'Donnell. He seems to know his stuff. You need to make yourself useful, and it used to be, and it still is, if you want to know more about the industry sector that you're working in, speak with as many people as you can. So if I had a new recruiter start with me today, then I'd say, look, well, in the olden days, it would just interview as many people as you can. Now, make the connections, have the conversations, speak with people in the industry. Even if there's no actual vacancies going on, just learn from them, absorb all the information. And the more you learn, the more useful you'll be to both candidates and to employers, because they're not just looking for a connection to a potential hire. They're looking for someone who knows the industry sector. They need to be able to trust you. And if you know what you're talking about, then they can feel confident in sharing more information with you, and that builds up your knowledge base. The more you know, the more useful you are.
I do just want to interject it, because you never know everything about everything. And even if, somebody like yourself, and I'm a bit of a veteran, I've been in recruitment 24 years, you're never going to know everything about everything. So if you are just listening to this and you're starting out, or if you're a recruitment leader and you have new people in your business, the way to sort of make yourself credible and have that instant gravitas is to employ people who have a voracious appetite to learn, who are naturally inquisitive, who are not afraid to ask questions. If I think back to my first job in recruitment 24 years ago, I knew nothing about engineering, and I just picked up the phone, because it wasn't the days before LinkedIn, and I literally asked the questions of the engineers. So I didn't sound like an idiot, because asking an open-ended question, you don't sound like you don't know what you're talking about, and you learn through the questions that you ask. You are going to make mistakes. And I think what Stephen has said there is absolutely right. You've got to immerse yourself in your sector, which is why when you're looking at which sector to go into or which sector to hire people into, I think there has to be a natural passion or an interest to really, truly want to be part of something. So I think that's really, really good advice. And I think that will stand the test of time, because it's a combination of using personal brand on LinkedIn, because we'll be sharing this on LinkedIn, but also building relationships through phone calls, through conversations that you're going to have.
Yeah, there's no one there's no one personality type for recruitment. There are lots of different types of recruiters, extroverts, introverts, and so on. But in hiring recruiters, I would always look for someone who was extremely curious. I'm a born nosy Parker. I love hearing about people's stories. So if I'm interviewing someone, I'm genuinely interested, because I want to know, how did you get to here, and where do you plan to go in future, and how can I help? And it's the same when speaking with employers. I was a recruiter in engineering. I specialized in plastic injection molding, of all things. And I was not an engineer. And if I'm speaking with engineers, I don't have to become an engineer and be qualified to that level, but I do need to know enough that I can distinguish between one and another. And for the most part, people are more than happy to share information with you. If you're genuinely curious, then ask the right questions, you will get a good answer, and pay attention. But curiosity is the biggest quality I would always look for in any recruiter.
Yeah, I think, and you heard it here first. I don't think I've ever heard that word used on this podcast in 100 odd episodes. And I think it's actually what we should all be doing, is hiring curious people. So that will stand the test of time. And like you say, it doesn't matter what your niche is. It doesn't matter what background it is. If you're naturally interested and curious about people, that's how you also make yourself future-proof, because if you're likely to get replaced by technology, but if you're naturally curious, technology will never replace that. So I love that, Stephen. So I want to bring back into the conversation something that we parked a few moments ago, which was about events. You are the expert. And I actually had you ask me, I had Louise on. Louise Triance came on sometime. So she was, she's somebody I know that you've partnered for many years. So you are very well known within the online event space, but also in the face-to-face aspect. So for people who are listening to this that are either due to attend their first face-to-face recruitment event, or they are hosting their first maybe online event, or a hybrid, just talk us through some of the benefits of both face-to-face and then online, and what your advice would be of maximizing sort of having an event or being at an event.
So as I mentioned before, getting in the space where candidates or colleagues or competitors are builds up your knowledge of the market sector. So the more that you can meet with people, the more you'll hoover up information that makes you a more useful person. I was at an event yesterday in London, hosted by the firm, the Forum for In-House Recruitment Managers. So it was all talent acquisition leaders in this room, and each one of them were with big brand name companies, and there were a clutch of people speaking on the industry. So all the people that I met and all the people who were speaking and the vendors that were there added to the ability of me to then speak with knowledge on on the recruitment sector for me right now. But if I was a recruiter, then all of those things go into the mix. So whenever you go to an event, even if you're a bit of an introvert, you kind of need to steel yourself and say, right, I'm here for work. I'm here to gain more information and to become more useful. So you're not going to do that by standing in the corner. You do have to go and work the room, frankly, and it might take a wee bit of steeling yourself to go and join in a conversation. There might be a clutch of 3 or 4 people speaking with each other, and you just insert yourself. But if you do it diplomatically and respectfully, then that can be done. But the benefits of it are there to be seen. So in going along to any event, whether it's online or physical, then you have a target in mind of what you want to come away with, and that's mostly it's more information, or it's leads to be speaking with some of the people that you meet in a more detailed conversation later on about might be vacancies, might be candidates for looking for jobs, might be any number of things. But the event is not the place necessarily to do deals, but it's to meet people that down the line you're going to be useful to, and they're going to be useful to you. Now, actually, I would put it in that order because in meeting new people, you can't be asking for things from them straight away. You need to give in order to get. So you need to share what you have. So you share your expertise and you offer to help them. So if they've got something come up that you have experience or knowledge of, then offer to help in some way. In whatever way is going to be helpful, and not necessarily something that you're going to be billing for, but you're looking to get involved with what they're doing and become useful to them. And when you become useful to them, then you're building a relationship. So yeah, absolutely. So in attending events, it's important to realize or to know on your way to the physical event, this is what I want to come away with. In going to an online event, there's more that you can do, but it's different. Because of course, if you're attending an online seminar and you have speakers on screen giving presentations, then first of all you can be looking up the person on LinkedIn. If there are people in the chat bar, you see their name, you can look them up on LinkedIn. You can have a chit chat with them on the the webinar conversation. You can be conversing with them there, but equally you can send a connection request to them on LinkedIn. I saw you on conversation at this event. I thought you had really interesting points to make. And again, what you're doing is you're stimulating a new relationship, or you're building an existing relationship, and all of those things will serve you well as a recruiter.
Yeah, no, definitely. And just on the introvert versus extrovert in a real life event, speaking as an extrovert, be cautious of Stephen's sort of protocol that this is not an opportunity to go and sell. But for the introverts listening, and I'm very consciously an introverted extrovert actually, there will be other people like you in the room, and there will be other people like you in the room thinking, oh my God, I'm not going up to anybody. So my advice is just go and speak to one person, the person you sat next to, just eye contact. You'll have one other person, use your body language. That is enough for you then to have somebody to go and speak with. Or if you can go with somebody, you could always invite a client to go with, and then you don't get overwhelmed.
I've been at events that I had been looking forward to going to, but on the day of it, I've flown down to London. I'm in a room. There are 100 people there, and sometimes I'm just not feeling it. Sometimes I just don't feel like I can barge in and take over because recruiters and people in the industries that I've worked in, they're often very competitive speakers, and sometimes you don't want to compete to top their story or to join in, and you just want someone else to ramble on. And actually, being a really good listener is an equal part of the conversation. So if you're allowing someone to tell their story, then you're paying them a compliment. You're showing that you're interested, and yeah, absolutely. So you don't need to be active in the conversation. You just need to be in the conversation.
And that could be your goal, to go and learn something. Yeah. Now, we can't have a conversation with Stephen O'Donnell and not thank him for creating an event that I can't believe we didn't have before, the Producers Day. What day is it? I know we've missed it as we record this now, but hopefully it'll come around again. What date is it?
It's the date can float, but it's always the first Thursday in April. So long as it's not the 1st of April, because we want to avoid that.
April Fool's Day for those who are not in the UK. It's April Fool's Day in the UK on the 1st of April. So
it's always the first Thursday in April, and it started at a conversation with a friend of mine, Stacey Sapara, who is the most connected woman on LinkedIn. She's connected to more people worldwide than anyone else. And I joked with her, "Oh, what are you doing for International Recruiters Day?" Just because there seemed to be a day for everything, and she took it seriously, and she then shared that with her audience, which is obviously tens of thousands. Wow. So I thought, oh no, I'm going to have to build a website, get the Twitter account, and make it happen. So I did, and I think that was over 10 years ago now. So year on year, it is, to an extent, it's a bit of silliness, but also, as recruiters, we do a serious job, and we make a big difference in the world with the people that we're connected to, candidates and employers and so on. But we needn't take ourselves completely seriously. We want to have fun in the job. So on International Recruiters Day, we simply ask for people to, pause for a second and pat themselves on the back and each other for, a job well done, but also, it might be, having some beers at the end of the day. It might be bringing cakes in today. It might be dressing up as your favorite recruiter from history. It might be any number of things just to kind of mark the day.
Can you imagine people dressing up as me in the future, or you in the future? That's isn't it? Well,
yeah. So on internationalrecruitersday.com is the website. On there, you'll see there's a whole load of both silly articles and really cool videos from important people in the recruitment industry worldwide who have contributed to talk about how their experience in the recruitment industry has been, and where we are in the world. So there's people there's Anne Swain from AppsCo, there's Neil Cabry from the REC, there's a whole load of recruiters from all over the world, and they've either given us articles or dropped in videos. And it's really good to know that you're part of a global community. There are people in Australia, there are people in Thailand, people in South America who are recruiters just like you, who are doing pretty much the same thing, but with different cultural variations on how they do it. But we're all doing this thing at the same time. We're putting a candidate, a job, and an employer together. And if we can do those three things, then we really add value to what's going on in business.
We do. And the start of that answer, which is that we do a really important job, which, that's why we need people like you in the market. And that's why we need International Recruiters Day to remember that we're not just salespeople. We are here to literally change people's lives. What we do isn't life-threatening. We're not surgeons, we're not teachers, we're not doctors, but we create life-changing opportunities for every single person that we represent, and whether that's a client or a candidate, all our customers, basically. And for ourselves, it's a life-changing industry. So I applaud you, I thank you, and I love being part of International Women's Day, International Recruiters Day, International Recruiters Day, not International Women's Day. So we will continue to celebrate, and I think that all the things that you do for our industry, which I know are above and beyond what you do day to day, it is creating this, I'd like to think, external perception that recruitment is an industry that, it's obviously multi-billion-dollar industry across the globe. Yeah. We are a sector that's a professional services sector. We change people's lives. So thank you for doing that, Stephen. You are an absolute legend. And I'm very disappointed that for those watching on YouTube, we haven't had a chance to see little Stephen today. Is it going to come
little
up?
Stevie? I
just see that. It might be too late.
I'm just going to see if little Stevie can come out to play.
Those who are still listening or watching, if you were, here he is, recruitment shining.
He's on the table beside me here.
There he is, having a little dance. We love it. Well, on behalf of the entire recruitment industry, thank you for the NORAs. Thank you for International Recruiters Day, and thank you for everything that you do to basically promote and ensure that our sector and our industry is continuing to just evolve and have best practice for everybody. So thank you so much for joining us on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.